All right, joining me now, Mercedes Schlapp, former White House Strategic Comms Director, and Katie Pavlich, editor at townhall.com and Fox News contributor. Ladies, thank you very much. Wonderful to see you. Katie Pavlich, I will begin with you. These are devastating poll numbers. Devastating poll numbers. His own party does not want Joe Biden to even run again. They just figured out, the reason I mentioned the Washington Post story, they just figured out that Joe Manchin's not on board with Build Back Better. Really, they just figured that out yesterday, according to this story. Manchin's probably the most consistent guy in all of Washington, D.C. Anyway, I want to ask you, what do you make of this story?
I think that a lot of President Joe Biden's problems come from the fact that the Democratic Party can't figure out where it wants to be. So they ran Joe Biden, told the American people that he was a moderate, and then he got into office and he needed to repay the very far left of his party who helped get him over the finish line by trying to pass this multi-trillion-dollar Build Back Better agenda with a 50-50 Senate and a campaign promise that he was a moderate who's going to bring the country together, not govern from the Bernie Sanders wing of the party. So the party can't get along. They can't figure out what they want to do. And Joe Biden, on a regular basis, has these issues with not being able to articulate his own agenda. And I think it's not just the Democratic Party in terms of the political sense, but it's also the media. I think it's quite interesting that you're seeing these news stories about Hunter Biden coming out in outlets like the New York Times and the Washington Post, just right before, of course, 2024 is going to get kicked off, and Democrats are going to look for someone other than Joe Biden to try and fill that seat on that ticket. But they have a very weak bench. Kamala Harris, of course, has had a very rough time as vice president. She was supposed to be kind of a placeholder to succeed President Biden, and so far her tenure has been even worse, you could say, than his so far.
You know, Mercy, it just, I think, shows the far left is not popular. The woke culture is not popular. The Green New Deal, what Newt Gingrich calls big government socialism. It's just not working. Here's what amazes me. I mean, this is not a new thought, but it continues to amaze me when you see these kinds of polls come out. And by the way, the tip poll that says nobody wants Biden, nobody in his own party wants Biden, that's a very accurate poll. They won't make any changes, Mercy. They won't change the key players, and they won't change the policies. That's the most amazing thing. Well, if you keep doing something and it fails, isn't that one of the definitions of insanity?
Well, first of all, Larry, your monologue made me very depressed, but I'm not going to get depressed anymore because I do agree the cavalry is coming, and it's got to come sooner than we think. But, you know, here's the reality of this, right? We have a rudderless president. We have the far-left Democrat Party basically controlling the narrative, controlling the media narrative as well, and the policies. And remember, for the Democrats, these far-left policies, it's their religion, and they believe that it is their moral duty to convince the American people, to force the American people to accept this agenda. But there is a clear rejection coming from the Americans. So there's two choices here. One, does Joe Biden move to the center, follow the Bill Clinton playbook, where Bill Clinton hired a Republican strategist, basically said that the era of big government is over, and try to win over these moderate Democrats that are dying off and these independents and try to take control of his presidency? Or does he just look at the numbers and become like an Lyndon B. Johnson, who basically said, I can't win. There's no way I can win a second term, and he bows out. So that's going to be the interesting, I think, scenarios that Joe Biden and his team are going to have to face. Yeah,
well, Katie, so, okay, among all these problems now, this Hunter Biden laptop stuff, I want to just talk for a moment on that. We have learned, first of all, this guy Schwerin, who is Hunter Biden's closest business associate, he visited the White House 27 times while Joe was vice president. On at least one occasion, he met with the vice president. More interestingly, maybe, you know, Joe Biden claims, this is one of these falsehoods, he has no idea about his son Hunter's business dealings, domestic, international. So then we learned that Joe Biden agreed to pay Hunter's legal bills, a mortgage, some money tied it over from fast things, something like $800,000. So if he doesn't know anything about his son's business, why is he paying his legal bills? I guess that's a problem. He's going to have to answer that, isn't he?
Larry, it is obvious, and it has been for a long time, that Joe Biden has been lying to the American people about what he knows about Hunter Biden's business dealings. And it's all out there for people to see. And common sense says it, and you add the evidence on top of it. It is obvious he was not only knew about the deals, but he was involved in the deals. If you start with Joe Biden as vice president taking Air Force Two to Beijing, Hunter Biden in tow. Hunter Biden had a number of business meetings during that trip, came back with millions of dollars in business deals with companies connected to the Chinese Communist Party. It's a long, long trip back from Beijing, but I'm sure that Vice President Joe Biden had no discussions about what Hunter was doing as he had him on that trip.
Sure.
And then you add in the emails about the 10% for the big guy, the information from Tony Bobulinski. It is obvious that the White House continues to cover for the president and for Hunter Biden. Just today, Press Secretary Jen Psaki said that the president does not discuss these business dealings with his son. That is obviously not true.
Yeah, well, so when Katie, when I talk to Mercy or Matt Schlapp, I know I'm dealing with the rich and famous, but I got one that tops everything here.
Oh, please.
We've got some Joe Biden, who's, was a senator for 40 years, whatever, and then vice president for 8 years. He's got himself some seriously nice-looking real estate. This is where the Schlapps come in. He's got a $5.5 million beach home in Rehoboth, Delaware, and he's got a kind of, Menzo, Nothenheimer, $1.5 million actual home in Delaware. Now, for a public servant, Mercedes Schlapp, for a public servant down through the years, he's got himself a serious real estate portfolio, right? $5.5 million beach house, $1.5 million. Where did he get that money? And you're not going to tell me, I know you're going to throw it back at me and say, well, he gave up smoking for a few months and he put the extra money in a little tin box, right? Is that the answer to this?
Look, God only knows where he got the money, and this is why it raises so many questions. But, Larry, here's the deal. The Schlapps do not own a $5.5 million beach house and the other property. That's so unfair because, we're too busy trying to pay for the 5 girls that we have to raise every single day.
Right.
And we've got a chocolate lab. His name is Hunter, and thank God he doesn't have a laptop because that would be way too controversial.
Well, you can always hope, for heaven's sakes. Don't give up the fight on that. Obviously, incredibly inappropriate. That was a tweet from my hero, Elon Musk, about the fact that Twitter threw off the New York Post and the laptop story, Katie. And, of course, here's Elon, talk about the cavalry coming. This could be one of the biggest sea changes in the entire country. Elon Musk may be the most famous guy in America today. And he is a free speech advocate, and he's going to take over Twitter. And I just want to ask you both quickly, what's the impact going to be? Because you're going to open the door now to conservative thinking and posting. I mean, that's going to be part of this. We have been denied Twitter for a long time. What you think, Katie?
I think that the federal government under the Biden administration is coming after Elon Musk. I think they're coming after anybody who's not engaged in managing what they call misinformation or opposition to their policies on the internet. You heard the press secretary say that this week. They regularly work with social media companies to combat, quote, misinformation. And we also now breaking today that the Department of Homeland Security now has a new misinformation task force. So I think that there's a battle from the federal government coming and that people should be ready for that.
But, Mercy, it's a revolution. And, I mean, basically, I know they've gone after Elon. They'll keep going after, but they're never going to catch him. He's done good things. I mean, this is a revolution, it seems to me. This is like a major, major development. And, it's going to give a lot of positive force to the cavalry that we were talking about. I'll give you the last word.
I just want to add... I want to add one thing. First of all, the Americans are awake, not woke, and they understand what's happening in our country, and they're taking action from the grassroots level up. And what's making me laugh is all these liberal media outlets that they are critical of Elon Musk because he's a billionaire, but they won't go after Bill Gates and all these other liberals who obviously give millions and millions of dollars to the socialist and leftist causes. So Elon Musk, I think for conservatives right now, he is really stepping up and allowing for free speech to once again live in America.
My favorite stuff, on this, two things to sum up. One is the Washington Post story by Jeff Stein that the Biden White House finally figured out Joe Manchin doesn't agree with their policies. But the second one is, Elizabeth Warren and all these progressive caucus, progressive lefty liberals that said Elon Musk doesn't pay his fair share. He doesn't pay his fair share in taxes. So just for the record, I know you two know this, just for the record, I want to say again, in 2021, Mr. Musk paid, are you ready? $11 billion in taxes.
Wow.
It is the largest
lot.
individual tax payment in the history of these United States. $11 billion. But they're saying he didn't pay his fair share, and therefore billionaires should not get involved. Of course, they own the Washington Post, they own Facebook and all this stuff. I just want to put that in, ladies, just so good stuff. Cavalry's
George
coming.
Soros funds a lot of their campaigns. So
You make us smarter every You make us smarter, Larry.
I'm trying. I want you to have a $5.5 million beach house, for heaven's sakes. Katie Pavlich, thank you very much.
Okay, we'll invite you and Katie over.
Mercy Schlapp, thank you very much. You're both fabulous.